Welcome to the Learn and Talk English podcast.
Yes, hello everyone. We're really glad you're listening today.
We are so happy you are here with us today. Here at Learn and Talk English, we are providing high-quality educational material to help you improve your English.
Exactly. And our goal here is to make English feel well, to make it feel useful, right? Clear and just a normal part of your real daily life.
Right, because I want you to imagine something. Imagine you are standing in a busy coffee shop, maybe in London or maybe New York.
Oh, I know this feeling. The barista's just looking at you.
Yes. The barista looks at you, waiting for your order,
Yeah.
and you know the English word for coffee. You know the English word for milk.
You've probably practiced it in your head, right?
Exactly. You've practiced this exact moment in your head a dozen times. But suddenly, your mind goes completely blank.
Yeah, that happens to so many of us.
Your heart beats a little faster, your palms sweat, and you freeze. The line of people behind you is waiting, and you cannot form a simple sentence.
It's awful. But, that opening scenario is exactly why we do this. It is a universal experience for language learners.
It really is. Why does the adult human brain do this? Why do we freeze when we already know the words?
Well, our main goal today is to solve that. We want to make English feel like a practical tool that you can pick up and use every single day, not some trap waiting for you to fail.
Right, because we're not here to give you difficult tests or grade you.
No, definitely not. We are here to help you understand the mechanics of the language so you can confidently communicate. When you understand how the language actually works, that feeling of panic in the coffee shop begins to fade away.
And because this podcast is designed specifically for English learners, we're going to speak at a steady, clear pace. We are not going to rush.
Exactly. We'll take our time.
We want you to understand every single word. But more importantly, we want you to understand the ideas behind the words. We are treating you like the intelligent adult you are.
I love that. You do not need to be talked down to. You just need the concepts explained clearly with real-world context.
Right. And to help with that, we will frequently repeat important sentences. We'll say things twice so you can really hear them.
Yes. Repetition is not just a style choice. It is one of the most powerful tools for learning a new language.
It helps your brain, doesn't it?
It does. When we repeat a sentence, your brain has a second chance to process the sound. It connects it to the meaning and moves that information from your short-term memory into your long-term automatic memory.
That makes total sense. So when you hear us repeat something, try to say it out loud wherever you are listening.
Please do. Speak out loud with us.
And before we start, we highly encourage you to follow the channel. Please listen to the podcasts in this channel regularly.
Yes, because building a language is it's like building a muscle.
Oh, that's a great way to think about it.
Right. If you go to the gym for 10 hours on one day and then never go back, you will not get stronger. You will just be sore.
You'll just be tired.
Exactly. But if you exercise a little bit every single day, your body adapts. It is the exact same with language.
So if you listen often, you will build a healthy learning habit. A healthy learning habit is the absolute secret to success in English.
Consistency always beats intensity. Always. Listening for 20 or 30 minutes a day every day will completely transform your English.
So let's get into it. Today, we have a vital topic. Our mission today is to show you how to use basic English grammar in everyday conversation.
This is such a big one.
It is. We're going back to the foundations. But we are looking at them through how real people actually speak, not how a dusty old textbook tells you to write.
And this is a crucial conversation because there is a massive disconnect in how adults learn languages.
What do you mean by a disconnect?
Well, many learners know the grammar rules perfectly. I mean, they study the textbooks, they memorize the charts.
They pass the tests.
Right, they pass the written tests with perfect scores. But then they step out into the real world, they try to speak to a native speaker, and that cognitive overload hits them.
They try to be too perfect, maybe.
Exactly. They feel nervous. They try to calculate the perfect verb tense in their head before they even open their mouth. They think too much, and as a result, they freeze.
Yes, the freeze. It happens to so many of us. We stop talking entirely because we are terrified of making a mistake.
But it's an emotional reaction, not an intellectual one.
So true. And our ultimate goal today is to dismantle that fear. We want to show you that grammar is not a boring test. Grammar is simply a practical tool.
Just a tool. It is designed to make your conversation smooth, natural, and clear for the person listening to you.
So to do that, we need a complete mindset shift. Let's unpack what grammar actually is.
Okay. Basic grammar is simply the physical structure of a sentence. It is the invisible skeleton that holds the vocabulary words together.
Okay, an invisible skeleton. I like that.
Imagine if I just threw a pile of words at you, like coffee, I, morning drink, the, in.
Coffee, I, morning drink, the, in.
That's confusing. Right. You know all those words. But because there is no structure, your brain has to work incredibly hard to guess my meaning.
So grammar just puts those words into a predictable order.
Yes. So the other person can understand exactly what you mean instantly without guessing.
I really appreciate that perspective. It is not about passing an exam. It is an act of kindness to the listener.
An act of kindness, that is a beautiful way to put it.
You are organizing your thoughts so they do not have to struggle to understand you.
Think about it like architecture. Imagine you are building a house. Basic grammar is the wooden or steel frame of that house.
Okay, so the frame holds everything up.
Exactly. The frame provides the structure. It holds up the walls and the roof. If the frame of the house is strong and straight, everything you build on top of it feels safe and clear.
So you don't need the fancy stuff right away.
No, not at all. You do not need complex, difficult grammar when you first start speaking. You don't need expensive, complicated decorations like fancy chandeliers for your linguistic house yet.
You just need a solid, reliable, basic frame.
It's just a strong frame.
I love the house analogy.
Yeah.
But let me push back a little bit. If grammar is just a simple, helpful frame, why do learners feel so scared of the word itself?
That is a very fair question.
Because whenever I say the word grammar to a student, their eyes go wide. They look genuinely frightened. Where does that anxiety come from?
Well, that fear is entirely learned.
Yeah.
It comes from years of sitting in traditional school classrooms.
Textbooks and exams.
Exactly. In a traditional school system, the focus is almost entirely on perfection. If you write a beautifully creative sentence but miss one tiny ease at the end of a verb, you get a big red X.
You lose a point.
Right. You are penalized for taking a risk. Your brain learns to associate grammar with punishment.
This is so sad, but true.
But in a real conversation, standing in that coffee shop with a real human being, perfect grammar is not your primary goal.
That is a huge relief to hear. But if perfection is not the goal, what is the first goal? What should we be aiming for?
Clear communication is always your first goal. The person listening to you just wants to understand the message.
They aren't walking around with a red pen to grade us.
Exactly. They are just trying to connect with you. When you truly internalize that grammar is simply a tool to help you connect, the anxiety really begins to dissolve.
Okay, so to build this strong house, to establish this clear connection, we need to understand the absolute foundation.
The building blocks.
Yes, the core building blocks of the English language. In English, it always boils down to three things: the subject, the verb, and the word order.
That is right. English is what we call an SVO language. Subject, verb, object.
So simple sentence building always starts with a subject and a verb.
Always. For example, consider the sentence, I work. Let's repeat that. I work.
Or she studies. Can you say it again? She studies.
Yes. Even though they are only 2 words long, these are complete, perfect English sentences. They have a strong frame.
Let's break those specific concepts down so our listeners have absolute clarity. What exactly do we mean when we say subject?
A subject is the person, the animal, or the thing that is doing the action in the sentence.
So it's the who or the what.
Exactly. It's what the sentence is entirely about.
Okay, let me repeat your examples to lock this in.
Mm.
In the sentence, I work, the word I is the subject, because I am the person doing the working.
Spot on.
In the sentence, she studies, the word she is the subject, because she is the one reading the books.
Right.
And in a sentence like, the dog sleeps, the phrase, the dog, is the subject, because the dog is the one sleeping.
Precisely. The subject is the actor on the stage. Now, the second core building block is the verb.
The action word.
Yes, the verb is the action word. It tells the listener exactly what the subject is doing.
So words like work, study, live, eat, run, and go. Those are all action verbs.
Yes, they show movement or activity.
But wait, are there verbs that are not actions? What if I am just sitting perfectly still and describing myself?
Oh, that is a great question. Yes, there are verbs that do not show physical action. We call these state verbs, or forms of the be verb.
So words like am, is, and are.
Right. They don't show an action you are doing. They show a still of existing. They act kind of like an equal sign in math.
An equal sign. How does that work?
Well, if you say I am happy, it basically means I equals happy.
Oh, that makes it very clear. But here is the unbreakable rule of English, right? Without a verb, whether it is an action verb or a be verb, an English sentence is completely broken.
Yes. It is a house with no walls. You absolutely must have a verb.
This brings up a fascinating struggle that I see so many learners face. Many learners have an amazing vocabulary.
Oh, massive vocabularies.
Right. They know the English word for coffee, they know the word for morning, they know the word for drink. But when they try to speak quickly, they take all those correct words and put them in the wrong order.
And that is a massive deal.
Why is that such a big deal? If the words are correct, why does the order matter so much?
Because English word order is incredibly strict. Unlike some other languages, English words do not have special endings that tell you what their job is in the sentence.
What do you mean by special endings?
Well, for example, in Russian or Latin, the ending of a noun changes depending on whether it is the subject or the object.
Ah, I see. So because of those endings, you can mix up the word order and people still know who is doing what.
Exactly. But English lost those special endings centuries ago. Because we do not have those endings, we rely entirely on the geography of the sentence.
The geography. The position of the word is the only thing that gives it meaning.
That's it. The standard, non-negotiable order is always subject first, then verb, then more information.
Let's look at a clear comparison. The natural, correct way to express a morning routine is, I drink coffee every morning. Let me repeat that slowly. I drink coffee every morning.
Perfect. I is the subject. Drink is the action verb. Coffee every morning is the extra information.
But many learners, translating directly from their native language, might accidentally say, drink I coffee every morning.
Right. And we need to explain why that second sentence, drink our coffee every morning, completely derails a conversation with the native speaker.
Because it's not just technically wrong, right? It actually confuses them.
It actively confuses the listener's brain. The English-speaking brain is deeply trained to hear the subject, the who, first.
So if they hear the verb first,
When you start a sentence immediately with a verb, like drink, the listener's brain instantly thinks you are giving them an aggressive command.
oh wow, they think you're commanding them to drink the coffee.
Yes. By the time you say I, their brain has to stop, delete the command, and try to rebuild the sentence in real time. It causes friction.
But when you stick to the strict order of subject plus verb, the listener relaxes. They know exactly who is doing the action right from the first syllable.
Exactly. That neurological explanation makes so much sense, doesn't it? You are preventing the listener's brain from working too hard.
Now that we know how vital it is to place the subject first and the verb second, let's look at the most common situation where we use this pattern.
Talking about our everyday lives.
Yes, we use it all the time to describe our normal daily lives. This is the realm of the present simple tense.
The present simple tense is arguably the most powerful and frequently used tense in everyday English conversation.
We use it to talk about our habits.
Habits, yes. We use it to describe our daily routines. We use it for scientific facts and things that are generally permanently true. It is the tense of stability.
Let me give you some personal simple examples of my own routine. I will speak them slowly. Listen carefully to the rhythm. I wake up at 7.
Subject, verb, information.
Yes. I drink coffee. I work from 9 to 5. I eat lunch at 1.
Those are flawless examples of the present simple in action. Notice the elegant simplicity of those sentences. Subject, verb, extra information.
Using real examples is important, isn't it?
Very important. I always advise learners, when you practice grammar, use real, deeply personal examples from your own actual life.
So don't just use textbook sentences.
No, do not practice fake sentences about a random man named John who goes to the supermarket. Practice sentences about what time you actually wake up.
Because it helps your memory.
Yes. When you tie the grammar to your real identity and your real memories, your brain holds onto the structure much longer.
That is great advice. Now, in my own routine, I do not just state facts. I also use specific words that describe the frequency of my actions. You know, how often I do things.
Ah, yes. Those are known as frequency words, or adverbs of frequency. They are the best friends of the present simple tense.
Because the present simple talks about habits, we naturally need words to explain how strong those habits are.
Exactly. Words like always, usually, sometimes, often, and never.
Let me provide some examples for you to listen to. I'll start from the strongest habit and move down. First, I always make tea. Let me repeat. I always make tea.
The word always means you do this 100% of the time. There are 0 exceptions.
Right. Next one. I usually read before bed. The word usually means I do it most days, maybe 80 or 90% of the time.
Right. Very frequent.
Then we have, I sometimes study English. The word sometimes means I do it occasionally, maybe half the time. And finally, I never smoke. That means 0% of the time.
Incorporating those frequency words makes your English sound incredibly natural, nuanced, and detailed.
But there is a very specific stubborn challenge that arises with the present simple, isn't there?
Oh, yes. It is the most common mistake learners make, even advanced ones. Linguists call it the third-person S problem.
Yes. This is an incredibly frustrating challenge. What exactly happens when we stop talking about ourselves and start talking about someone else?
Well, learners will frequently say things like, he go to the store, or she like the movie.
But that's wrong.
Right. The unbreakable grammatical rule is that with the third-person singular pronouns, specifically he, she, and it, we must attach the letter "es" or the letters "es" to the very end of the verb.
So we cannot say he go.
No, we absolutely must say he goes to work. Let's repeat that. He goes to work.
We cannot say she like. We must say she likes coffee.
And we must say it rains.
But here is the mystery. Why do learners constantly forget this if they know the rule?
It's puzzling, isn't it?
It is. I have students who can write the rule perfectly on a written test. They understand the concept. But the second they start talking to me in a casual conversation, they say, he work. Why is there a disconnect between their knowledge and their mouth?
It is a fascinating problem of cognitive load. When you sit in a quiet room taking a written test, you have all the time in the world to review your sentence and add the "es."
Right, you can plan it out.
Exactly. But speaking is incredibly fast. When you speak in real time, your brain has to juggle a dozen different tasks simultaneously.
Is to think of the vocabulary.
Yes, it has to retrieve vocabulary from memory, calculate pronunciation, monitor the facial expressions of the person you were talking to, and plan your next thought.
That is a lot for the brain to do at once.
It is. And because the "es" sound at the end of a word carries very little actual meaning, I mean, the listener already knows you mean he because you said he, the overloaded brain simply drops the "es" sound to save processing energy.
Wow. So it is a shortcut your brain takes when it is overwhelmed. It is not that the learner is lazy at all.
Not at all. It is just the brain trying to be efficient under pressure.
So what is the practical solution? How can a learner override their brain's desire to drop that sound?
The solution is spoken, physical repetition. You cannot fix a physical speaking habit just by silently reading a rule in a book.
You have to actually use your voice.
You must train your facial muscles and your vocal cords. You must practice speaking the sentences out loud until the muscle memory takes over.
Walk around your house and say out loud, my brother works.
My sister drives.
The dog sleeps.
Yes. When your mouth gets entirely used to making that small hissing sound, it will become an automatic reflex, even when your brain is stressed.
That is a great tip. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. We use action verbs for things like go and like. But what about when we just want to describe our fundamental identity or how we feel on the inside?
Now we are looking closely at the be verb.
Yes, the be verb and the immense power of contractions.
The be verb is the anchor of the English language. It is absolutely essential. The present tense forms of the be verb are am, is, and are.
And we use them for our core identity.
We do. We use them for internal feelings. We use them to talk about our age, to state our professions, and to give physical or emotional descriptions.
Let's listen to how they function in a sentence. I am tired. Let me say it again. I am tired. That uses am to describe a temporary physical feeling.
She is a teacher. That uses is to describe a professional identity.
They are friendly. That uses are to describe a personality trait.
Grammatically, those sentences are completely correct. If you write them in an essay, they are perfect. But there is a massive secret to actually sounding natural, comfortable, and fluent in spoken English.
The secret is a technique called contraction. The word contraction is a vital vocabulary term for you to understand today.
So what is it?
Well, a contraction is when we take two separate words, push them together, drop a letter or two, and create one single shorter word.
And we usually replace the missing letters with a little mark in the air called an apostrophe.
Exactly. Now, in formal grammar books and news articles, learners almost always see the full separate forms. They read, I am. They read, you are.
But we have to ask, is that how real people actually talk on the street? Or in a restaurant? Or in a casual office meeting?
Absolutely not. If I walk up to my friend and distinctly say, I am very happy to see you, do not forget that we are going to dinner, I sound stiff. I sound a little bit like a robot or maybe an artificial intelligence voice from 10 years ago.
Right, it doesn't sound human. Human speech is driven by breath and efficiency. In real life, spoken English relies heavily, almost exclusively, on contractions in casual conversation.
So instead of taking two breaths to say I am, people merge it into one syllable. I'm. Let's repeat that. I'm.
Instead of you are, people naturally say you're.
Instead of we are, people say we're.
And instead of the harsh commanding do not, people say the softer don't. Let's repeat that one too. Don't.
This is not just about sounding cool or native, is it?
No, not at all. This is a crucial point for your listening comprehension skills.
Because if you only practice saying the full separated forms in your bedroom, real spoken English out in the world will sound incredibly fast and chaotic to you.
That's the danger. When a native speaker casually says I'm, your brain will be desperately searching for the two distinct words I and am, and when it doesn't hear them, you will get confused and lose the thread of the conversation.
There's a brilliant point. Grammar in everyday conversation is not only about what is technically correct on paper, it is about natural acoustic grammar.
Yes, acoustic grammar. Using contractions makes your speech flow smoothly on a single breath. And psychologically, it makes you sound much more friendly, approachable, and relaxed to the listener.
All right, so the present simple tense we spent time analyzing earlier is perfect for describing normal daily routines. But what if the routine is broken?
What if the action is happening right exactly at this very second?
Yes, we need a different tool. This brings us to the present continuous tense.
We use the present continuous for actions that are unfolding right now, right in front of our eyes, or happening temporarily around this current period in our lives.
And the grammatical structure is quite different from the present simple.
It is. You build it by using a form of the be verb am, is, or are. Then you add your main action verb. And finally, you attach the letters ing to the end of that action verb.
Let's construct that structure slowly for our listeners so they can hear the rhythm. I am studying. Let me repeat. I am studying.
She's cooking.
They're waiting.
Huh.
You hear the be verb setting the stage, and you hear that continuous ing sound at the end, which gives the feeling of motion.
To truly grasp the difference between these two present tenses, I want you to imagine a large television screen.
Okay, big TV.
We are going to split the screen into two halves. On the left side of the screen, we have a documentary about your everyday normal life.
Got it. The left side is a documentary.
Yes. And on the right side of the screen, we have a live security camera showing exactly what you are doing right this exact second.
Oh, I love that split screen visualization. Let's contrast the two sides clearly. On the left side, the documentary of your habits, you say, I drink tea every morning.
That is the present simple. It is a timeless fact about your life.
Now look at the right side of the screen, the live camera right now. You hold a cup to your lips and say, I am drinking tea now.
That is the present continuous. It is active and temporary. Notice the subtle but profound difference in meaning. I drink is a permanent identity. I am drinking is a temporary action.
Let me give you another comparison for our split screen. On the left side, representing my permanent truth. I work at a school. That is my official job title. If I am on vacation in another country, I still work at a school.
Right, it's generally true.
But on the right side of the screen, right now in my office, I'm working on a report.
Yeah.
That is the specific, temporary task occupying my attention at this very moment. When the report is done, the action stops.
The absolute best tip I can give learners is to stop thinking of grammar as a math equation and start connecting it to real-world time.
Connected to time.
Yes. Whenever you are about to speak, ask yourself a quick internal question. Am I talking about my general habit, or am I talking about what is happening right in front of me?
When you map grammar directly to the concept of time, it becomes a powerful tool for storytelling rather than a confusing rule.
Exactly. It's about the story.
So far, we have talked extensively about habits, and we have talked about the live action happening right now. But human beings are storytellers. We constantly talk about the past. How do we describe the things we did yesterday?
We need to travel back in time, and we do that using the past simple tense.
We rely on the past simple to talk about yesterday, last weekend, 10 years ago, or anything that is entirely finished and disconnected from the present moment.
The action is dead and buried in the past?
The past simple can be incredibly intimidating for learners, though, because the verbs literally change their physical shape. It feels like you have to learn a whole new vocabulary.
It can feel that way, yes. We essentially have two categories of verbs when we travel to the past. The first category is the regular verbs.
Regular verbs are polite and predictable, right?
They are very polite.
Yeah.
To push a regular verb into the past, you simply add the letters E and D to the end of the base word.
Oh, the id sound.
Exactly. For example, the verb play cleanly becomes played. Let's say it again, played.
The verb watch becomes watched. Let me repeat. Watched.
And the verb clean becomes clean.
If all verbs were regular, English would be so easy. But there is a major frustrating difficulty. The English language is full of irregular verbs. They completely ignore the E rule.
They really do. They mutate and change their spelling entirely. For example, the very common verb go completely transforms into went.
Let me repeat that one. Go becomes went.
The verb eat changes its vowels and becomes ate. Let's repeat, ate.
The verb see turns into saw.
And the verb have shrinks down to had.
I have to ask on behalf of all our listeners, why does the English language do this? It feels like the language is actively trying to punish us with these random changes. Why didn't English just make go into goad and simplify everything?
That is a brilliant question. And the answer lies in the ancient history of the language.
History, really?
Yes. English is a Germanic language that evolved over thousands of years. In Old English, many verbs changed their inside vowels to show the past tense like sing and sang.
Okay, that makes sense.
Over centuries, people decided that adding "ed" was much easier, so most verbs slowly adapted to the new easy rule. But the most common everyday verbs like go, eat, see, and have were used so frequently by ordinary people every single day that they resisted the change.
Wow, so they were burned too deeply into the culture's memory.
Exactly. So the reality is that the irregular verbs are the oldest and most frequently used words in the entire English language. You cannot avoid them.
That is fascinating.
Therefore, my advice is do not waste time memorizing long alphabetical lists of obscure irregular verbs. Focus entirely on the core everyday ones.
Memorize went, ate, saw, had, did, and made.
Yes, those 6 words will power 80% of your past tense conversations.
That historical context makes it feel less like a punishment and more like an antique artifact we are preserving.
I like that way of looking at it.
Now, I want to bring up a very frequent mistake I hear intermediate learners make when telling stories about the past. Often, a learner will confidently say, yesterday I go to the store, instead of the correct form, yesterday I went.
Yes, this is a classic error. The learner successfully uses the correct past time word, the word yesterday, but their brain forgets to mutate the verb, so they leave it in the present tense.
How can they fix this persistent habit? Because it is very hard to break.
I have a powerful analogy to help rewire this habit. Think of time words. Words like yesterday, last night, last week, or 2 days ago, as bright, flashing red grammar signals.
Bright, flashing red lights.
Imagine a red light spinning in your mind. When your ear hears the word yesterday, or when your mouth begins to form the word yesterday, that red light should go off.
It's a trigger.
Exactly. Your brain should automatically switch tracks. The word yesterday is the trigger warning that forces the following verb to change its shape into the past tense. Train yourself to react to the time word, not just the action.
Time words as flashing red lights. I love that. We have looked deeply at yesterday. Now let's turn our eyes forward and look at tomorrow.
The future.
Yes, we are going to discuss how to construct future plans, specifically using the structures going to and will.
Unlike some languages that have a single dedicated future tense ending, talking about the future in English is usually done by combining verbs into 2 main structures, going to or the helper word will.
A common question from learners is, are these 2 forms exactly the same? Are they perfect synonyms? Can I just choose whichever one sounds prettier to me at the time?
Well, there is a very distinct psychological difference between them, and I will explain it as simply as possible. We use the structure going to for plans that you already established before you started speaking.
So you already decided on it.
Yes. You already walk the path in your mind. For example, if you say, I'm going to cook dinner tonight, it implies you already went to the supermarket, you bought the chicken, and the recipe is in your head. The intention exists.
Or, I'm going to call my mom. Let me repeat that. I'm going to call my mom. It means you already put it on your mental schedule for the day.
That makes perfect sense. It is a pre-existing commitment.
So what about the word will?
The word will is highly spontaneous. It is used for quick decisions that you make exactly at the moment you are speaking, often as a reaction to new information.
So it's not planned.
No, it is also used for making promises to people or predicting what might happen.
Let me provide a vivid story to illustrate this difference perfectly. Imagine my friend walks into the room and he looks incredibly stressed. He drops his bag and says to me, I have way too much work to do today. I am overwhelmed.
Oh, no.
I look at my friend, I feel sympathy, and I make a quick, spontaneous decision right in that exact moment. I say, don't worry, I'll help you. Let me say it again, I'll help you.
Notice how you used will contracted to I'll.
Yes, because it is a spontaneous reaction born out of a desire to help. I did not plan it yesterday.
That is the perfect scenario. You reacted, but let's advance the story. Imagine it is 3 hours later. You are talking to a completely different person on the phone. You are explaining your schedule for the next day.
Okay, so now it's a plan.
Exactly. Because the decision is now an established plan in your mind, you would change your grammar and say, I can't meet you for lunch. I'm going to help my friend tomorrow. The spontaneous will has hardened into the planned going to.
That psychological distinction makes a profound amount of sense. Will is for right now, reactive decisions. Going to is for solid, existing plans.
Yes, it is a beautiful nuance of English, but I want to reassure every learner listening right now. If you are learning English, do not let the fear of choosing the wrong future form paralyze you.
It's okay to mix them up sometimes.
Absolutely. Do not worry about mastering every microscopic detail of this rule today. If you accidentally mix them up and say, I will cook dinner instead of I'm going to cook dinner, the sky will not fall.
The native speaker will still completely understand that you are talking about the future.
Both forms thrust the conversation forward. Communication is the goal, not textbook perfection. Do not let the fear of will versus going to silence you.
That is very encouraging. Now that we have mapped out how to describe our actions across the present, the past, and the future, we need to address how we actually interact with other human beings.
Because conversation isn't just a monologue.
Exactly. We do not just give speeches. We interact by asking questions and responding to them. We need to focus on the mechanic of questions and short answers.
Forming questions in English can feel incredibly strange if your native language simply changes the tone of voice to make a question.
Right. In some languages, you just raise your pitch at the end of the sentence.
But in English, questions usually require structural changes. We use what we call helping verbs. These are words that carry the grammatical weight, like do, does, and the past tense did. Or we shift the position of the be verbs, like am, is, and are.
Let's highlight a very specific, crucial mistake that learners constantly make when trying to ask a question about the past. Many learners will ask, did you went to the store? Or did you eat the pizza? Why is that grammatically incorrect?
Let's deconstruct that mistake slowly. English is a very efficient language when it comes to marking time. In an English sentence, we only need to show the listener that we are talking about the past tense one single time.
Just once.
Yes. The helping word did is already firmly in the past. It is the historical form of the verb do. Because did is already carrying the heavy weight of the past tense on its shoulders, you absolutely do not need a second past tense word next to it. It is redundant.
Oh, I see. It is like wearing a belt and suspenders at the same time. So the mutating password went is totally unnecessary.
Exactly. Because did is doing all the heavy lifting, the main action verb gets to relax. It must return to its basic, original, naked form.
You confidently ask, did you go? Let me repeat that. Did you go?
You ask, did you eat? The tiny word did signals the time travel, and go tells us the action.
What about questions that rely on the be verb? Do we use the helper word do for those? Should a learner say, do you already?
No, we absolutely do not. The be verb is very independent. It does not like helper verbs. With the be verb, the rule is surprisingly simple. You do not add any extra words.
So what do you do?
The order of the words simply flips. The be verb jumps over the subject to the very front of the sentence.
It just moves.
Yes. Instead of the statement, you are ready, you flip it to the question, are you ready? Let me repeat. Are you ready?
Instead of she is tired, it jumps to the front. Is she tired?
That flipping motion is much easier to visualize. Now, when someone asks you one of these questions, how should you answer?
That's interesting because I have noticed that when learners are asked a question, they often just freeze and say a single sharp word like yes or no.
But native speakers rarely do that.
Right. They use short, rhythmic answers.
That is a very perceptive observation about culture and language. In English, giving a single, abrupt yes or no can sometimes sound a little bit rude, cold, or dismissive, as if you want the conversation to end immediately.
To soften the interaction and sound polite and naturally engaged, we use specific short answers. Let's practice the rhythm of some examples. If the barista asks you, do you like black coffee? The polite, natural short answer is not just yes, it is yes, I do. Let me repeat, yes, I do.
Or on the negative side, no, I don't.
If a coworker points and asks, is she your new manager? The smooth short answer is yes, she is. Let me repeat, yes, she is.
Or no, she isn't.
I really want our listeners to notice the bouncy rhythm of those answers. Da da da. Yes, I do. No, she isn't. It is almost musical. Copying this specific rhythm makes your English sound much more complete, friendly, and incredibly natural.
Exactly. It creates a comfortable, rhythmic, back and forth flow in a conversation. It is like playing linguistic ping pong. Returning a short answer shows the other person that you are actively participating in the game, not just blocking the ball.
So we have successfully put the big, heavy structures in place. We have the frame of the house. Now we must look at the tiny, almost invisible words.
The little ones.
Yes, these tiny words cause very big headaches for learners. We are talking about articles.
Articles are the three tiny words, A, N, and D. They are physically very small, but they carry a massive amount of psychological meaning about how we view the world.
Let's define the exact rules for using them, because many languages do not have these words at all. Let's start with a and an.
We use the articles a and an when we are talking about one single solitary thing. And crucially, it is a non-specific thing.
Non-specific, so anyone in general.
It essentially means any one of this general category of things. It is new information being introduced to the listener for the very first time.
There's also a strictly phonetic sound rule to help you choose between the two, isn't there?
Yes. We use a before a word that starts with a hard consonant sound. For example, a dog, a heavy book, a fast car.
And when do we use an?
We switch to an before a word that starts with an open, airy vowel sound. This prevents our vocal cords from stopping. For example, an umbrella, an apple, an enormous elephant. The N bridges the two vowels together smoothly.
Now, we shift to the powerful word the. We use the when we're talking about a specific, unique thing.
It means that both the speaker and the listener share the exact same knowledge. They both know exactly which specific object is being discussed.
Let's look at how they work together dynamically in a mini-story. Listen to how the article changes as the listener gets more information. I was walking in the park and I saw a dog. The dog was very friendly.
That is a perfect classic example. Let's analyze it. In the first sentence, I saw a dog. It is brand new information to the listener. It could be any random dog in the entire world. So we use a to introduce it.
But the magic happens in the second sentence. Now, the dog was very friendly. We are no longer talking about any random dog. We're talking about that specific dog we just mutually established in the story.
The knowledge is now shared, so the article upgrades to the.
I like to think of articles as spotlights in a dark theater. A turns on a broad, general light, you see a dancer, but the is a highly focused laser beam. Both of us are staring at the exact same dancer.
That's a great visualization, but there's a great danger with articles. As we mentioned, many global languages like Russian, Japanese, or Korean do not use articles at all. Because they seem so small and meaningless, learners from those backgrounds often just delete them from their speech entirely.
This is a profoundly common mistake.
Mm-hmm.
A learner might confidently say, I went to store and bought book, or they might look up and say, sun is very hot today.
Why is that actually a problem, though? If I say I bought book, the native speaker can still perfectly understand what the learner means, right? The core vocabulary is there.
Yes, the logical meaning is usually clear. They know you purchased literature. But leaving articles out entirely makes the sentence sound incredibly broken, abrupt, and strange to English ears. It sounds like a telegraph machine from the 1800s, or a robot talking, not a fluent human being.
So true. To sound natural, you absolutely must say, I bought a book. Let's repeat, I bought a book. You must say, the sun is hot. These small words act like the necessary glue in the language. They hold the heavy nouns securely in the sentence and give the listener's brain tiny resting points.
Another set of small words that act like connective glue and universally confuse almost all language learners are the tiny words that map out time and physical space. Let's explore the notorious prepositions of time and place.
Oh, prepositions. These are those frustratingly small words like in, on, at, to, for, and with. Their primary job is to connect other parts of a sentence together.
They act as bridges, don't they?
They do. They show us the physical place, the passage of time, the direction of movement, or the conceptual relationship between different objects.
I have to admit, as someone who loves language, these are incredibly confusing. Sometimes you're forced to say in the morning, but then you have to say on Monday. Why does the rule change? Can you give us a simple visual explanation for the three big prepositions that cause the most pain: in, on, and at?
Let's break them down very clearly by using a visual metaphor. I want you to imagine a large funnel, wide at the top and very narrow at the bottom.
Okay, a big, wide funnel, like for pouring oil into a car.
Yes. Let's push time through this funnel. At the wide, broad top of the funnel, we use the word in. We use in for longer, wider, broader periods of time. This includes vast expanses like centuries, years, months, in general, long parts of the day.
For example, in the 1990s, let me repeat, in the 1990s, in June, in the morning.
Okay, so in is for massive amounts of time at the top of the funnel. What happens as we move down to the middle of the funnel and get more specific? What about on?
As the funnel narrows, we switch to on. We use on for specific individual days and concrete dates. It's much more focused than in.
For example, we say, on Monday, let me say it again, on Monday, on my birthday, on July 4th, one specific rotation of the Earth equals on.
So in is for broad time, on is for specific days, and what happens at the very tiny sharp tip at the bottom of the funnel. What about at?
The very tip of the funnel is at. We use at for exact, highly specific clock times and precise moments. It is a pinpoint on your watch.
For example, at 7 a.m., let's repeat, at 7 a.m. at noon, at exactly midnight.
Let me repeat all three of those prepositions in one single flowing sentence to lock that funnel image into my memory. So I can accurately say, I have to go to work at 24-hour day out to the broad, wide season.
The funnel works. Now, what is fascinating is that the human brain uses the exact same spatial logic to break down physical place.
Really? Does the wide to narrow funnel rule stay the same for physical locations?
The underlying concept is remarkably similar. Let's start wide. We use in when an object or a person is physically inside a three-dimensional enclosed space or a vast area with borders. Think of a container.
For example, I am in the room. Let me repeat. I am in the room. The keys are in the car. We live in London. London is a vast container with city limits.
What about on for physical place? Does it still mean the middle of the funnel?
For place, on requires physical contact. We use on when something is physically touching and resting upon a flat surface. It is exposed, not enclosed.
For example, the book is on the table. Let me repeat that. The book is on the table. The picture is hanging on the wall. We are standing on the floor.
And what about the pinpoint at for physical locations?
Just like a pinpoint in time, we use at to describe a specific point of interest, a targeted destination, or a general location where an activity happens, rather than focusing on the 3D space itself.
For example, I am waiting at school. Let's repeat. I'm waiting at school. She is relaxing at home. We are meeting at the bus stop. You might physically be in the school building, but when you say at school, you are focusing on the concept of the location.
It seems to me, after all this explanation, that pure repetition is still the ultimate key for mastering prepositions. You simply have to hear native speakers say in the morning and on the table hundreds of times until it permanently feels right in your bones.
Yes, that is the honest truth. As a teacher, I strongly advise learners, do not try to analyze the deep philosophical logic of prepositions too much because every language on earth maps space and time differently.
A preposition in Spanish will not map perfectly to English.
Stop translating them individually. Just memorize them in chunks. In the morning, on Monday, at school. Learn the phrase, not the tiny word.
To make all these sentences flow together beautifully, without sounding like a repetitive, exhausting textbook, we use one final, brilliant grammar tool. We are talking about pronouns.
Pronouns are tiny placeholder words like I, you, he, she, it, we, and they. They seem basic, but they perform a heavy cognitive task.
Why do we use them so frequently? What purpose do they serve?
We use pronouns as a mental shortcut. We use them to stop ourselves from repeating the exact same heavy nouns over and over again. Repeating heavy nouns makes your speech sound incredibly clunky, childish, and unnatural. It exhausts the working memory of the person trying to listen to you.
Let me give you a severe before and after example to prove exactly how awful speech sounds without them. Without using any pronouns, I would have to tell you a story like this. My sister is very tired. My sister is sitting at home right now. My sister is cooking dinner for my sister's family.
Oh, that sounds absolutely terrible.
It sounds terrible because it is genuinely exhausting to listen to. The listener already knows you're talking about your sister after the first sentence. Hammering them with the noun again and again is inefficient.
Now, listen to how the story flows with grace of pronouns. My sister is very tired, so she is at home and she is cooking dinner. That sounds infinitely lighter and more conversational.
Yes, it glides. Learners, especially intermediate ones, sometimes overuse proper names because they suffer from anxiety. They want to be extra, perfectly clear. They're deeply afraid the listener will forget who they're talking about.
But English sounds so much more natural and sophisticated when pronouns are trusted and used correctly to carry the narrative forward.
Here's another great example of how pronouns weave people together. I met Anna at the cafe yesterday. She looked incredibly happy. We talked for over an hour. The tiny word she perfectly replaces Anna, and then beautifully, the word we brings Anna and me together into a single unit.
Exactly. Think of pronouns as the smooth, lightweight bridges that effortlessly connect your sentences and thoughts together.
We've spent this time building a deep understanding of all these basic fundamental rules. We went from the rigid frame of the subject and verb to mastering the time travel of tenses, the ping-pong of questions, the spotlight of articles, the funnel of prepositions, and the smooth bridges of pronouns.
But knowing the rules is only half the battle. How do we actually practice them in the real world without that coffee shop panic setting in?
Yes, we are going to look at big mistakes and top tips for achieving automatic grammar.
This final portion is entirely about practical, actionable advice. It is about how to take the theory out of your head, put it into your mouth, and make your grammar feel natural and unforced.
Let's start by addressing a massive psychological hurdle. I noticed that perfectionist learners try to mentally build very long, highly complex, perfectly translated sentences in their heads before they even open their mouths.
And because the sentence is too long and complex, the cognitive load is too high, and they freeze.
That is the most common trap. My absolute number one rule for learners speaking in the real world is this. Start small. Short, grammatically correct sentences are incredibly powerful and completely natural.
I work in a hospital. I'm tired today. I am learning English. You do not need to link 5 complex ideas together with advanced conjunctions to be a good speaker.
Speak one clear, short, solid sentence. Then take a breath. Then speak another short sentence. Complexity will grow naturally over time.
Another major crippling issue is the habit of translating directly from your first language. You form the thought perfectly in your native language, and then you try to frantically swap out the words for English words one by one, like a dictionary.
Direct translation is a guaranteed way to cause strange, confusing word order. You cannot do it because every language has a fundamentally different architectural frame. The mindset shift you desperately need is to stop asking, what is the English word for this exact word?
And start asking yourself, how do native English speakers usually express this general idea? You should be absorbing and learning full phrases and rhythmic patterns, not just individual isolated words.
Now, I have a very tough, controversial question for you. Imagine an intermediate learner is talking to a native speaker at a party. The learner is telling a story, and they suddenly realize they made a tiny grammar mistake. Maybe they forgot the third-person deas, or they use in instead of on.
Okay, I can picture this.
Should the learner immediately stop the conversation, apologize, correct the mistake out loud, and say the sentence perfectly again?
No. Firmly and emphatically no. Remember the very first principle we discussed today. Communication and connection always come first. If the other person generally understands your meaning and the story is moving forward, absolutely do not stop the flow of the conversation.
Just keep going.
Finish your thought. In the privacy of your own head, you can quietly notice the mistake and promise yourself to practice it later. But keep your mouth moving. Stopping abruptly ruins your own confidence, and it makes the conversation awkward for the listener. Strive for connection, not perfection.
That is wonderfully liberating advice. Keep the conversation moving forward. Now, I want to introduce a very important magical word for language learners. Automatic.
Automatic means doing something completely naturally as a reflex without having to think hard about it, like breathing, walking, or riding a bicycle.
We ultimately want your English grammar to bypass your conscious brain and become completely automatic.
But how can a busy adult achieve that? What are your top practical tips to actually make grammar automatic?
I have 3 core tips. Tip 1. Always learn grammar tethered to time words. When you practice the past tense alone in your room, never just say, I went. Always say the time signal word. Yesterday I went. Let me repeat. Yesterday I went. Program the trigger into your brain.
Tip 2. Practice full musical sentence patterns, not just single rules stripped out of a grammar book. Say the phrase, I'm going to, out loud 10 times with 10 different endings. Train your mouth muscles.
Tip 3. Speak regularly. This is the most important one. Speaking out loud to yourself for just 5 minutes a day is pure magic. Regular, short, daily practice is infinitely better and more effective than sitting down and torturing yourself for 3 hours on a Sunday afternoon.
Just 5 minutes a day builds the physical habit.
And those daily physical habits are what create true, automatic, fluent language. We have journeyed through an incredible, deep amount of information today.
Let's summarize the core lessons of this massive exploration. We learned that grammar is a helpful tool, not a punishing test. We looked at the rigid SVO frame of the house, the subject and the verb.
We learned how to confidently talk about our stable habits with the present simple and the temporary right now with the present continuous. We travel back to the past and tackle the history of irregular verbs, and we plan for the spontaneous and structured future.
We learned how to keep a conversation bouncing with questions and short answers, how to shine a spotlight with tiny articles, how to navigate the funnel of prepositions, and how to connect it all smoothly with pronouns.
And out of all of that, the single main message I want you to carry with you today is this. Build small, strong sentences. Engage in real, messy practice. And please, have less fear.
Clear, simple grammar builds clear, beautiful conversation. Every single small step you take, every 5-minute practice session matters deeply.
Now, we have a specific call to action for you to put this into practice immediately. We have our question of the day. I am speaking directly to you, the learner listening right now. Which basic grammar point that we discussed today is the hardest for you in everyday conversation, and why?
Is it juggling the verb tenses in real time? Is it remembering the tiny articles? Is it figuring out the funnel of prepositions?
We want you to use this exact sentence template to answer us. The hardest grammar point for me is blank because blank. Let me repeat the template. The hardest grammar point for me is blank because blank.
Please, take a moment right now and write your honest answer in the comments below. We want you to actively practice your writing while the ideas are fresh. Use the template provided. We read every single comment from our community.
Leaving a comment is a fantastic, safe way to take your very first small step of active practice today. Remember to subscribe and like. Please follow the Learn and Talk English podcast.
Continue to listen to the podcasts in this channel to build that vital, healthy daily habit we talked about.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. Take care of yourself. Have deep confidence in your ability to learn, and keep practicing your English every single day.
Goodbye. Keep building that strong, simple frame for your language, and soon you won't even have to think about the grammar. You'll just be talking, connecting, and sharing your world.